So, hello again. This is probably the second part to the last video where I talked about the qualities of an excellent teacher according to Buddhism. And to a teacher-student relationship, there are always two people, and the student also has to have certain qualities according to the book The Path to Enlightenment by the Dalai Lama. And in this video, I want to talk to you about these qualities that the student has to have in order to have a successful relationship with the teacher. And again, I'm going to read my notes here from the book. There are 7 qualities basically, and the first one is the student has to have a spirit of sincere inquiry. That means opening ourselves up to gain significant benefit in our study. That means we have to be open to change ourselves, to change who we are on a fundamental level. And this is not very easy because we always think, yeah, of course we want to learn and we want to study. But when it comes to a study like spirituality, where it's about you, it's about changing your core beliefs, your core worldview, that is the ego that is being attacked by this or being changed by this teaching. And so this can be a tricky endeavor, and it requires enormous open-mindedness. So the second quality is to have critical intelligence. And I touched on this in the last video. But this means to be able to discriminate between beneficial and misleading forces on the path, evaluating how the teachings transform attachment, aversion, and adjust how and what we bring to our hearts. First of all, that means having a balanced approach to study and practice. And secondly, intellectualization is used for the purpose of cultivating the mind and eliminating inner weaknesses. So that's critical intelligence. And that brings us to the third point, which is very important. The student has to have an intense longing to gain spiritual understanding and experience. So it's not just enough to seek out teachers and then hope that the teacher will just give you everything you need. You have to bring a desire with you already. It's not if somebody has to pull you along to practice and to keep your motivation up, you have to dig deeper and find where is your own motivation, where can you find that, and where can you get that momentum and gain that special thing that some people just miss, and why they will never find a successful practice or stay on one path or on this path of growing up and waking up on the long term. So that's very important. Number 4 is appreciation of the Dharma and Dharma teacher. So this applies especially to the Buddhist teaching. Number 5 is able to keep his mind alert and focused during teachings. So you have to have a certain level of quietness of your own thoughts already. And because otherwise you will dilute what you hear from the teacher greatly if your own mind is just constantly chattering and commenting everything. And because the teaching, especially in spiritual areas, sometimes is not delivered on the level of rational understanding. So it's not really in the meaning of the words. The teacher sometimes gives out some connection or develops some connection with the student, and the words transfer something that is beyond the meaning of the words. And so it's important to have a clear mind as the student and receive it openly, open-mindedly, and not to just judge everything from your limited worldview. Otherwise you wouldn't have chosen to learn something from the teacher. The 6th characteristic that the student needs to have is abandons wrong attitudes towards the teachings and maintains receptive oneness. Abandons wrong attitudes towards the teachings and maintains receptive ones. So that's a little bit further an elaboration on the point before. You obviously cannot gain anything from a school of thought which you already think is false, and you haven't given yourself the opportunity to see why it has benefits, what are the truth in it, because there is some truth in everything. Think about it like this: there are people that have a completely different view on the world, and what they say and believe is what makes sense from their perspective. So from their perspective, there is some truth to that. And obviously all truths are relative. So even though you have your truth and worldviews, which are correct to what you have experienced, there is also something to gain from all the other perspectives. So open-mindedness, learning from many different sources is probably what gives you the most growth in the shortest amount of time. And then the last one, which is mentioned as a quality of the student in Buddhism, is the student maintains conditions that are conducive to learning and eliminates unconducive ones. So the conditions conducive to practice are: while training, one should try to live in a quiet environment. 2 principal attitudes towards the teacher: respect and appreciation. And the student must also evaluate and compare the teachings given to the principal guidelines of the Dharma, which means you have to be somewhat familiar with the topic the teacher is talking about, and not just listen to one very specific area of the teaching maybe, and not have a context from which to under which you can understand where this teaching is going and why it's maybe so has certain practices and goes into detail on certain things, and that you not get lost. So when you get a teaching, you always have to come also prepared already. You have to maybe know what is the larger theory behind what the teacher is talking about, what is the culture behind it. And so there are many aspects that the student can also do to get a good experience out of the teacher-student relationship. And yeah, this is what is written about how to be an excellent student in the book The Path to Enlightenment by the current Dalai Lama. I still recommend you read the whole book. It's kind of not so easy to read, but it gives a good overview of the whole area of Buddhism and doesn't get lost too much into the details, which can sometimes be very, very difficult when you just read some random book from Buddhism and you have no overview. Then you don't know which school is this, what is this really aiming at, what do the words really mean, is it meaningful to my path? And so this is a good book to start if you are interested in Buddhism. That's it for today. I hope you liked the video, and see you in the next one. And before I forget, Merry Christmas. See you in the next video.